pushed me forward and made me want to be a New York City firefighter.
The purpose of the foundation is to provide every firefighter in America who can't afford his own personal safety system, we'll buy it for them.
It's extremely important to give back and remember the legacy of Joey. He lost his life and he's not forgotten. We're going to remember him forever, and we're going to do that through supporting the foundation and all the training that it does.
The foundation tries to raise money through donations and also the seminar. The seminar is our big fundraiser for the year. We have almost 300 firefighters here today training at the Suffolk County Fire Academy.
So incredibly grateful to be here this weekend at the Joey DiBernardo training weekend. The Memorial Fund has been incredible over the years of what they've been doing in Joey D's legacy is mission driven and paying it forward. It's firefighter protection. And the incredible thing about that is that it's done through a training weekend. Bringing all these instructors together and firefighters that come in from all over the country to be a part of this weekend really is all about sharing in the legacy of Joey DiBernardo.
Well, the main thing about the foundation is we get to pay homage to our friend, brother, firefighter, and instructor, Joey D. And it's just top-notch instructors from all around the country coming in and are offering their sense of street smarts to firefighters from also all around the country. You have everybody volunteering their time, which is great. And again, we want to pay homage to our friend and our brother, Joey, and we teach from the heart. That's the best.
There's all kinds of training. There's training on search, there's training on rescue, there's training on hose handling, there's training on moving a down fireman. I saw some training being done on giving a down fireman CPR, which I thought was unbelievable. What a great idea. Something I never saw in my career, and I think this is a great idea. There are so many different evolutions going on here, and there's so much going on. It's a great, great seminar.
100% of the proceeds are donated back to fire departments in need. And then the training level that they present is just untouchable. The training that goes on today will save someone's life.
With the foundation giving the PSSs to all the fire departments and all the grants and all the good work that they've done, they're saving lives directly and indirectly. And everybody that's gone through this training over the past couple days, that's being filtered back to their firehouses and to their fire departments. And it's our hope that they continue to save lives, indirectly or directly.
We're pushing guys to the limit with what I feel is like some of the best instructors in the country.
So you have the whole world encompassed in this. It's a great, great, great training venue.
They're giving back to try to save lives. So we don't lose anyone else like we lost on Black Sunday.
So right now, Joey's probably saying, so even though I'm not here, I'm still saving lives. That's what he'd say.
Hey everybody, it's Rob, National Fire Radio, with this morning's episode of The Gospel. I'm sitting here with our good friend Pip. Pip's kind of an all-around nice guy. Does
don't say that out loud.
Does a lot of cool stuff here. We have him with the Size Up. He's a 555 fitness guru, and just in general, a captain. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So my man, thanks for joining us this Sunday morning for The Gospel. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. It brings back my old Catholic school, Catholic upbringing. Some scary thoughts there. Not in bad ways like you may think, but the whole gospel thing, right? Brings me back some days.
The good news is there's no calisthenics, or maybe that's the bad news for you. So we don't have to get up, sit down, kneel, get up, sit down, kneel. Then that's going to happen today. So
we could, if you want to, we could totally make that happen. Like the Catholic gospel workout. I could. Oh man, dude, I got to write that down.
There you go. That's
fitness craze right there.
We're bringing our fitness up to a holy level now.
It's funny though, because you mentioned you're a captain, right? And it's weird how I guess I've been involved with 555 now 8 going on 9 years, and there was that time in the verse, what's it called now, the metaverse, the interwebs, social media, whatever.
I don't know what we're calling
whatever you want to call it these days, but over these years where people just thought I was the fitness guy. They're like, oh, you're the fitness guy. You do all the burpees online and stuff like that. I see you out there. And I'd be like, yeah, bro, but I'm a firefighter. You know, when I started with 555 as a firefighter, got promoted to lieutenant shortly thereafter starting with 555 and now captain just this past year. But people were like amazed. They thought like, well, you just do fitness. And then they thought, well, that's all you know about the fire service type of a thing is like fitness. And I'm like, nah, I'm like you. You know, I like being a firefighter. I like going
Right.
into burning buildings. I like riding on the ladder truck. And now I'm back on the engine, humping hose because I got promoted and I can't be on the ladder truck anymore. And it was just this strange thing for folks to be like, you do this job and you're into this job and you're into fitness. It was very weird in the beginning. Now I don't think it's such a big deal anymore, but it was very strange.
Yeah. So let's dive into it, Pip. Like when I pitched you on this idea and said, hey, what do you want to talk about? And you're like, actually, I don't know. But we kind of settled on like this idea of self-care. And I think it's an excellent topic because I think self-care has a lot of definitions for different people. You know, everything's a little bit different, but it's honestly, I think it's the one thing that we don't focus on as a culture in firefighting, especially because we're always taking care of somebody else. So there's never a time. Well, I shouldn't say there's never a time, but like
you don't make time for it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's something that we, again, starting 555 with Larry, we never really even thought about when we were starting this. We kind of learned that along the road. And it was kind of like, you know, who's out there helping us? Who's helping the emergency responders, right? There's always been groups out there that help. But when do they help and what kind of help are they offering? And what I've learned through this crazy thing I call 555, and I'm probably going to say that in this gospel so many times because it's just amazed me, you know, how far it's come and how far we as a team have been able to bring it. But in that time frame, I've also had to think about myself, you know, and taking care of myself because here I was out there on social media, you know, helping firefighters I've never even met before, police officers I've never even met before. And at times, I've forgotten to help myself. You know, those excuses that I talk about saying, like, no excuses accepted. Well, I was making them because I'm like, oh, I have 6 conference calls today about the grant and fitness companies and what event we're going to. And then the next thing you know, my kids would be getting off the bus from school and I wouldn't do the workout that day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do the workout the next day and I wouldn't do that self-care. I wouldn't practice it. And it's so easy to make those excuses. It's really a challenge. And I think that's something that we don't do good enough in the fire services. We don't take care of ourselves. You know, we use that word brother and sister, and I'm always there for you, but we have to be there for ourselves. And it kind of sounds crappy to say, right? Like I'm here for me.
Right.
Like I'm doing this for me.
Well, and we push the team work aspect so much because it is critical. Like this is not, you know, this isn't golf where it's just me and the 18 holes and my horrible slice. Like, you know, everybody has that part where they fill it out, but you know, when it comes to taking care of yourself, like it can almost come across a little selfish if we say, oh, I have to take care of me or I'm here for me. But it's so important because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be a part of the team. And if we're not part of the team, then
you are the weakest link, right? If you're not taking care of yourself, and people, again, you know, we like to shoehorn people. So, you know, I'm the fitness guy, and people think that the only thing I'm talking about is fitness, but it's so much more than just fitness when you want to be part of that team. You know, even getting promoted and starting to run the training drills. You know, I came to that conclusion that I was running the training drills, but I wasn't doing the training drills.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how often do you throw ladders after you've been on the job for 10 years and you're promoted? You know, it's like, all right, guys, we're going to go out and throw ladders today. Well, you got to pick up that ladder and throw it too. And a lot of times, I'm not going to lie, it's scary to throw the ladder after you haven't done it for 6, 8 months maybe or something or another line. Just this past year, I was involved with this one happened 2 recruit academies ago. I got assigned to help with ground ladders. And I was like, oh, I better open that Firefighter 1 book because these kids are learning how to throw ladders in ways I have not done in eons. And I don't want to look bad in front of them.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be open with them that, at times you don't do that. So mentally, physically, all these things come into that self-care. We have to keep doing them. I want to say the word repetitively, but you have to do something each and every day to make yourself better for the next one.
Yeah. So, self-care, what does self-care look like to Pip?
It's strange because it's definitely recently changed. I feel like it's always evolving, right? But the big part for me is holding myself accountable and finding ways to hold myself accountable, right? And you're going to see me, with my hydro jug here. Oh, wait, this camera thing is so weird on here, but like drinking water every day. Water, sorry, it's not just New Jersey Northeast podcast. Well, no, I do water with a D, apparently, people say. I don't understand it, how I say water. But anyway, big part of my day is drinking water, right? And I've done it for years and years. Like, I have to drink water. But what I realized was if I don't have it in a big jug like this, 60 plus ounces, and I take this thing everywhere with me, I'm not drinking my daily water. Because I can't remember if I filled up that small water bottle that I was carrying around 4 times in one day. But this, I know, this is me and my self-care doing this every day. So it's trying to figure out, and almost the word, the kids are using these days, gamify the system in a way that works for me. Even doing something like this with you, talking to you and in our conversations we have, just, hey, what's going on today type things. That's me holding myself accountable to keeping up with you and keeping up with people that I keep important in my life. If I don't do that, then I get into kind of that cycle that's so easy to kind of go down the toilet. And it's easy with fitness because you start to lose your gains or you realize you're not, doing what you used to be able to. It's all these other things in my life that are just as important that I have to keep track of.
100%. And I think like there's the other side of self-care that's, just making sure that we're like upstairs, we're doing okay. And we're taking that time to not get depressed, decompress out of whatever it doesn't even have to be job related. It could just be life in general. Because like you said something before that I, in the beginning of this that really struck with me was that, you have these phone calls and, next thing you know, the kids are getting off the bus and the workout doesn't get done. A couple of days ago, my wife has recently started working from home with her new job. And like, I came up and I was in a foul mood. And she's like, what's wrong? I was like, I've been on the phone all morning. Like I've just been making phone calls and I have stuff that I have to do. And it's like, and I was like, just that one day where I wanted to throw my phone.
Yep. I've been there.
And I'm like, this is really expensive. I cannot do this. But it was, man, like that, like life happens from time to time where all of a sudden you're just like, you have those mornings where next thing you know, it's 12 o'clock, you're hungry, but you don't realize you're hungry because you've been so busy and you're angry and like just this, everything's
hangry.
Yeah.
I get hangry a lot. My wife likes to remind me of the hangry Pip comes out because I've been going a mile a minute since I got home. I got home from work at 8:30 this morning and it was phone calls and a Zoom meeting and some emails that had to get done and then a surprise phone call and then I had you on the schedule. It's so easy to lose that and to get lost in that and stay grounded in that. And I've really been trying to be more grounded when it comes to all of the outside noise. The pandemic changed everyone. If anyone says they weren't affected by it, I whatever. You know what I mean? I know
you got a commercial out of the deal, bro. I mean, it definitely changed you. I mean, I'm surprised you even had time to pencil me in with being Hollywood and all, but
it's my 45 seconds of fame, the crying fireman, hashtag crying fireman. You can find me on anywhere on the internet these days from that, right? But it changed so many of us. And listen, everybody went in ups and downs and highs and lows. And it really grounded me on what I have that's important to me. and how I have to keep that in my life. I love the job. I love everything about the job. But when I'm not at the job, I have a wife, I have two little boys that I need to be there for just as much as I'm there for the job. The same with 555 Fitness. There was a few years back where Mrs. Pip basically told me, like, I need to start being present in my kids' life because all too often I was doing one of these. My head was down. Sure, I was at the play, but I was 555 fitnessing on my phone, let's say, or trying to keep up with what's National Fire Radio doing on social media. And that goes into the whole self-care too. It's that self-awareness that you need to have. And sometimes you need someone else to tell you, hey, there's a problem here. Like even your wife saying, like, why are you in a foul mood today? You probably wouldn't have even realized you were in a foul mood, and you could have bit her head off or yelled at the dog or anything like that. And that comes into that checking in. I feel the same when I'm on shift. I have to check in with myself constantly as to where I'm at with the guys in the firehouse, where I'm at with my boss, where I'm at with the call we're going on, how that call affected me afterwards, because everything affects us, and it's always affected us throughout the history of firefighting. It's just how we handle it now that's a huge difference in the way they handled it in the past.
Yeah. And I think we are, we are more aware of the happenings, on, like, I don't want to say it's not cognitive, but just like the all of this stuff piling up, like, because it's funny, we were kind of shitting on the old generation the other day at work, and that we were like, oh yeah, like there was all these fires all the time and things are so busy, but like, you look through the logbooks and the work was different. There was a little bit more fire load back then, but over time, some of the stories have, become stories.
Embellished. They've embellished a little bit.
Like, like every shift was a free alarm fire, and everything else. And it wasn't like that. But like we said, like the difference, one of the things that we noticed was just how much busier we were as, at my own job. And the last 22 months had screwed us up call volume wise, because the call volume, like, just, I think everywhere, a grenade went off in the room and disrupted whatever that call volume was. So it either went up, down, or like, I don't think anybody really stayed the same. But now we're going back to that pre-COVID call numbers. Like, we're seeing that, like our shift the other day, for our single station, we ran 15 runs, and that's a busy 24-hour shift for us, or that's what we consider busy. And to also, like, on how those alarms are playing out in that shift, like we have a cycle, you can kind of follow it, but like a lot of these are starting to happen at night now. So like the whole sleep schedule is getting screwed up even more. And it's just, we like I said, we know that this is going to affect us, like, and we have that. We're armed.
It's coming. So we know the storm is coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like when COVID hit, like, what's going on? What are we doing? I knew the storm was coming. I didn't know what the storm was going to be like, right? And we, like you guys, some days we exploded. We had, where I work, we had the FEMA ambulance crews come in for that first batch, where it was like, where are you from? Like, Missouri. Where? Come again? You're on an ambulance here where I work?
Right.
And then we went from like peak to like, there's nothing. And we're driving around our city, and we were the only, I kid you not, we went on a call. We were the only piece of vehicle moving on the roads, all the way to the call, all the way back. There were no other vehicles on the roads. It was like, my driver described it as, what movie did he say? Like the Will Smith movie where he's the dog with the dog.
I Am Legend.
That is. Yeah, I Am Legend. He's like, this is scary, like looking around.
Yeah.
But you had to prepare for it. And I think we're better geared because we talk about it. Like you have to talk about it, because if you're keeping any of those little things inside, that's when your jar starts to get full and full and full and full, and you can't even realize that it's full. And that's something that I think separates our generation from the last. Those older guys that went to all those fires, and it made me laugh when you said that. My dad told me a story. We opened another engine company when my dad was on the job, and for a while they like didn't cross this highway that we have unless it was a second alarm or greater. And he's like, I feel like for my 6 months working there, I went on about 15 calls, like on our side of they went to second alarm fires, but he's like on our side of our little area.
Right.
And I was like, what? Like you went on 15 calls? And like, he's like, yeah, I don't think I ever told you that. We didn't do anything for a really long time out here. But those guys didn't talk about anything like that. You know, they handled their situations in a different way. And they weren't talking about self-care. They weren't checking in on each other. They didn't have the abilities to connect with people around the world who may have the same problems as them. And that's where I think we're at now. And that's another big part for me, is being able to use this information that's constantly coming at me to make myself better.
Mm-hmm. So you drink your water, I'm going to have my coffee and
I had coffee
the hell out of myself here.
Listen, so if you do your plus 60 ounces of water a day, like I highly recommend to everyone, you know, the hydration doesn't start after the fire. The hydration should go before. And I've really honed in on this recently more the past few months. It's helping my sleep for sure. You know, the water intake, I feel like my sleep is definitely getting better. It's cut down my alcohol consumption. I did do dry January. That was a big thing for me this year. My wife kind of threw down a challenge, and I'm like, all right, I can do it. And I learned a bit more about myself and my drinking habits by not drinking for a month, and saying that maybe my little bit was still a little bit too much. You know, it was very easy for one to turn into 3 or 4 on a Tuesday night.
Okay.
And I learned some more about that. But what I've learned about my caffeine consumption with drinking a lot of water recently and making sure I'm getting it in every day is, if I drink too much coffee, I definitely hit the restroom faster than if I don't drink too much coffee. So I don't know if it's the caffeine or the coffee that's putting me overloaded, but it's cut down my caffeine consumption as well. And it's been just one more of those self-care things that's just so easy, you know, like so easy to do.
Do you think that routine helps in setting up a success for self-care?
Hell yeah.
Talk about it for a minute.
Yeah. Like the routine of filling this up every morning and having it with me. This is my routine. Like, call me Linus and the blanket. And I always said that about my smaller water bottle, but this one really makes it so I'm drinking the right amount of water. That's part of my routine. Now, remember, routine for me, it's just like you can have routine at the firehouse, but it could get interrupted like that. But if you don't set yourself up for that routine, it's not going to happen. Another thing that I do, I'm not going to say religiously, but it is almost religiously, is I try to do what's called Romwad, range of motion workout, every night at some point before I go to bed. And it's basically, excuse me, it's a per pay subscription plan where it's video guided stretching every night. It's kind of like yoga, but there's no weird language in it that they use in yoga. It's just a guy telling you you're going to do, 2 minutes of a squat hold, and you're going to do 2 minutes of a pigeon hold, and you follow along on this video. So that is part of my routine. And that's a really easy part of my routine because it's just me and the TV screen, or my wife and I and the TV screen, or the kids and I. Workouts are a little more intense and take a little more planning, and, is it too cold in the garage today, and all those kind of excuses. But that is in my routine to do. At the firehouse, it's every night before I go to bed. Excuse me. Whatever time that may be, I get that 20-minute routine in.
Yeah.
And it helps me stay grounded. Like you said, it helps me in that focus time where it's 20 minutes of deep breathing and just processing what's gone on. I used to do it in the morning, but I like it better at night. I feel like it helps me wind down, kind of calm down. There's no work after that for most nights. Maybe it's a TV show, or maybe it's just right to bed. But that routine is making me feel better, plain and simple.
Yeah. I think with routines, like I know for having ADHD, I have to have a routine, or else it's like the day is just, the day is not looking good for me on a baseline with ADHD and managing it, but like having a routine of like where I wake up in the morning, I make my bed. Well, actually, I make coffee, and like once as the coffee is making, I go back and I make the bed, and then come out and have the coffee and like write down on a list of things that I have to do for the day. Helps me one, like, and it's those simple. It's started out with just a simple 3 tasks, but that in itself improved my ability twofold to be more effective, because it was a simple routine, and it kind of builds off of that. So I think one thing too, like, do you think starting small when it comes to routines is it's almost like the success of building up? Because I think people get lost, especially working out in a fitness world, like how 100 miles an hour they're into it, and the next thing you know, like they have a 1-year subscription that they haven't used to the gym or something like that. So
new year, new you every year doesn't work for people, right? And so I'm definitely answering your question, but see, that wouldn't work for me. If I got out of bed and went and made coffee, I would not go back and make my bed, right? So I know for my routine, I get out of bed, I fold the covers back over before I go anywhere else. Maybe some days I miss it, but literally I'm like brushing my teeth going, I didn't make my bed. I didn't put the covers back over. You know what I mean? But that's my routine. And then your routine is the way that you do it. And that's something too that folks get in their head. Well, Pip does it this way. Listen, it's just the way I do it, but you have to have something. And that starting small is so key, because I can't tell you how many people have come to ask advice and been like, I want to run a marathon, or even we can go less. I want to run a 5K. And I'm like, that's awesome. I think you can do it. Why don't you go run a mile today to do that and start small, right? Because you have to start. And I think you and I have talked about this before. I've said it on a few other shows, but I always like to challenge people to something my buddy did. It was 1 mile a day for 30 days. And it didn't matter if he walked it, walked it, carried a sandbag while he was doing it. But that challenge of 1 mile for 30 straight days, that's your accountability to squeeze in those 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it takes you each day. And that's going to get you on this road to making it a habit. It really has nothing to do with the distance or the time, because I'll have people try it and they're like, yeah, I did it 4 days in a row. I feel great. Tomorrow I'm going to do 2 miles. I'm like, slow your roll. Just do 1 mile a day, because what happens? Then they do 2 miles. Then the next day they're thinking about how much those 2 miles hurt, and they don't even want to do that one anymore. So those small changes in your life are key to get you rolling.
Yeah. Do you, on the topic of self-care, because you've been in the position for a little bit, do you have is there anything that, if I said, hey, what's some self-care tips for newly promoted officers? Is there anything that you can think of? Because I know this is kind of.
That's a good one. I like it though. No one's really ever asked me that one for newly. So you're newly promoted, and most of the time when you're newly promoted, you end up someplace new with new people, right? So one of those self-care tips for me would be to continually check in with yourself to make sure that you're getting to know your people, because that has to be the first part of our job. All too many people think, you pass that test, you get that horn or that bar, now you're the boss and you're going to be in charge, but you have to adapt to those people just like they have to adapt to you. So I think when it comes to self-care for that newly promoted officer, it's that continual checking in with you and asking them, am I doing this the way you guys feel is right? You have to be willing to put yourself out there, really. I've been really fortunate, my department is a little smaller, so you kind of know everyone. And I've been fortunate to work with kind of the same crew now for 2 promotions in a row. But I know that the day is going to come where the transfer is finally going to happen, and I'm going to have to go back to that new guy mentality again.
Interesting. I just lost my train of thought there.
You just threw me totally off on a question.
Yeah. All right. So like the other thing like you mentioned about before, the self-care aspect, and like you used your phone as an example. Like I think that focusing back in on family is sometimes a difficult transition for all of us in emergency services, because like for me, one of the things I know I personally struggled with was slowing down my 100-mile-an-hour hypervigilant state, if you will, of like like going to that school play, but then being like, hey, the fire exit's blocked. Like, they put
Looking
something
around,
in front
yeah,
of the
yeah,
pole
yeah.
station, like, like this, like, where's the
Yeah.
fire extinguisher? It's supposed to be by the door to protect the means of like,
What about being with kids, like being in large crowds? I'm continually like active shootering in my head, being at
right.
a street fair and looking around like, where am I going to grab my kids and run if a car is coming plowing at us? And you can really go down a whole different rabbit hole with where you're getting at with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important that we kind of emphasize to people too, like, hey, like, and be present in the moment that you're in. Like always have, I think being situationally aware
For sure.
is good, because situational awareness is key just to living life. But you don't have to be in condition red all the time. Like you can,
No, and that's a huge difference. Like when you're looking around the room and how your being is, and that comes back to yourself, knowing yourself, catching myself doing things like that, or looking at someone that may be a little off, let's say, and that goes back to a whole different level of self-care. And I had a really bad call one night, going back a few years now, and it was a murder scene. And it was probably one of the most horrific murder scenes that I've ever been on, is an easy way to put it. I was a lieutenant. I had a younger crew. And the next day, I want to say it was Father's Day or so. My family and I went somewhere. We were out, and my wife could tell I was off. My wife is a physician assistant. We've been together a really long time, and this call affected me, and it still affects me to this day. On our way to go out with the boys, I was called the guys that I worked with the night before just to check in on them, because it was a couple hours after the call, and I wanted to make sure, I knew I was processing things, but I wanted to make sure checking in with them. And we were at a playground with my kids, and there were two people at the playground that just looked not right to me, is an easy way to put it. I'm not going to go down the road, but they just looked like they didn't need to be at the playground.
your intuition was telling you something was wrong.
Something was up, yeah. And they weren't doing anything. It just, my intuition was there, and I was at a heightened level. And Tracy caught on to the way I was that day, knew there was already a problem, and just saw me changing. I wasn't watching my boys have fun on the swings like I should have. I was honed in on these people. And she was like, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I want to go over and punch that guy right in his face right now. And she's like, okay, kids, let's go. Like, it's time to go. Like, almost like a check, please. Like,
Yep.
daddy needs to leave. And we didn't, obviously my kids are little now, but they were even smaller then. We didn't tell them, like, daddy's whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like, we got to
The
go.
little
Daddy's
pips, you're like, Dad's having a post-traumatic stress
Daddy's
flashback
gonna
right now.
rip that guy with the baggy pants on head off right now. We got to go. And it was weird too, because my wife's like, why don't I drive home? And I'm like, yep, I think that's a good idea, because there could have definitely been